How many of you have eaten bugs before? If you look around, that's a good number of people. The thing is, it's wrong. Every single person in this room and watching this video has eaten bugs. They're in everything we eat. The FDA and other agencies around the world allow bugs in our food because they're impossible to keep out, and in fact, many of them are actually good for you, but I'm getting ahead of myself. For example, just 1 cup of rice can contain up to 3 whole insects. The tomato sauce used on 1 regular-sized pizza can have up to 30 fly eggs or 2 whole maggots. What about the dough for that same pizza? Well, there can be up to 1,900 visible insect fragments in there. And one more for those of us on a low-carb diet. The ground coffee used to make 1 standard cup can contain up to 60 bug parts. The point is, without realizing it, we've all been eating bugs and loving it. I know in Western culture this can be a bit of a shock to hear for the first time because it was for me too. But for over 2 billion people around the world, insects are one of their main sources of protein, often farming them specifically for food. There are 3 main reasons why that's a really good idea. First, they're one of the most nutritionally dense foods on the entire planet. And using crickets as the example, because they're considered the gateway bug, they have over double the protein versus beef, more calcium than milk, and more omegas and B12 vitamins than wild salmon. Second point, and this is the one that really drove it home for me and is also a major factor as to why they're farmed around the world. It's because they're really easy to grow. They require much less resources than traditional livestock, making them a much more sustainable option. And if we compare the same size serving of beef to the same size serving of crickets, the crickets require 2,000 times less land, 2,000 times less water. They grow 12 times faster and produce 100 times less greenhouse gas. And actually, livestock is the #1 contributor to greenhouse gases, producing more than all the trains, planes, and automobiles combined. The third reason we should be eating bugs is it's more ethical. If you think of cows, pigs, chickens, we've all seen pictures of them unnaturally crammed into pens. Unfortunately, this is the only way to farm them efficiently at scale. Crickets, on the other hand, they cluster together all on their own, and we end up giving them way more space than they actually even want. And when it's time to collect the crickets, dry ice is introduced into their bins, and being cold-blooded, the temperature drop puts them into a state of hibernation before they're harvested. Despite all these great reasons, I know some of you are still thinking, yeah, that's all well and good, but ick. These are still bugs we're talking about here. So let's take a minute to think about that ick factor. It wasn't so long ago, people were disgusted by the idea of eating lobster. It was commonly viewed as only good enough for fish bait or fertilizer and considered a mark of poverty. Even shrimp. They're so popular, but have you ever stopped and really taken a look at these things? I mean, talk about ick. Or there's that very first person who stopped, looked at his cow and thought, hey, I should try drinking its milk. Imagine what his neighbors thought. Today, bugs are in the same position as that lobster, and maybe I'm that crazy cow guy. The difference is these days, it's a lot easier for you to start adding insects into your diet. This is because there's an entire industry growing around taking the foods we already eat and reformulating them to where bugs are now intentionally a main ingredient. And when trying these new bug-based foods, it's definitely no secret that, well, you're eating bugs. And the best part is, they taste as good or better than their original counterparts. So I think it's time we all put bugs in our pantry. Thank you.